have my alarm on. All right, guys, ladies and gentlemen, remember when we learned about the Aztecs? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no? Come on, in the chat. Come on. I want you guys to wake up, 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 wake up. Thank you, Genesis, for being the only person to respond. Thank you, Denise, for being the second person to respond. Thank you, Chavola, for being the third person to respond. And everyone else is asleep. Okay, I don't care anymore. It's your grade. All right. Thank you, Denise, Gabriel, and Genesis for remembering. So when we learned about the Aztecs, we talked about how in Mexico, it wasn't called Mexico yet, right? But in Mexico, you had a huge empire, okay? And we talked about, let me go to Google Earth so that I can show you guys exactly where we're looking at in the world right now, in case you guys forgot. Google Earth. Big screen. Usually takes forever. All right, it's loading, guys. Hopefully some of your guys' brains are loading. You guys are asleep. Hold on, guys, it's loading. I should have opened Google Earth before class started because it takes forever to open. Oh my gosh, hurry up, bro. Hold on, guys. Okay, let's go to Google Maps instead. Maps. Still opening. Wow. Okay. We'll use Google Maps right now. Alrighty, guys. So we've been looking at Spain a lot. We've been looking at America a lot. Finally, we're going to see two people meet. Mexico, the Aztecs are going to... So we learned about a few weeks ago the Aztecs. They're right here, in the middle of Mexico. We're talking about Spain, right? Columbus was from Spain, right? He sails thinking he's going to find a shortcut to the to India, and he lands somewhere around here, okay? Okay, 25 years. I'm going to repeat that again. 25 years after Columbus finds America, okay? You have to know that if we were all in Spain right now, I mean, during the time that Columbus was alive, if we were all in Spain during the time that Columbus was alive, and we heard that Columbus found new land, I bet anything, okay? I bet anything that Denise would probably be like, ooh, I want to go to America, right? Columbus says that there's gold over there. Genesis would probably be like, ooh, I kind of want to go to America, especially the boys more than the girls. No offense, with peace and love to the girls. But the boys are just a lot more, they have a lot more rights back then. Girls don't. And so the guys are like, ooh, especially because they're the patriarch of the family, right? They're the head honcho of the family back then. It was the guy's responsibility to bring money to the table. So if Mateo, Chavola, Francisco heard about Columbus, you bet all of them would be like, bro, I want to make money for my family. I want to become rich too, right? This is also my chance to be respected by the royalty, right? If I conquer or colonize a land in the America, maybe the king and the queen might make me like someone important. And then maybe one day I get a chance to probably become king and queen. I don't know. There's a lot of reasons why people wanted to travel to America from Spain. It was either to become rich. It was either to be find new opportunities. It was either to the Catholics. Catholics wanted to go to America. Do you guys want to know why? They wanted to go to America because they wanted to say, more Catholics in the world, yay, right? So they wanted to go to America literally just to force Native Americans to forget their own religion and force them to become Catholic, right? So 25 years after Columbus arrives, okay, you get this guy, homeboy named Hernan Cortez. He sails the Atlantic Ocean. He goes through here and he actually makes it to the mainland, Mexico. Okay. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, because we're finally going to see how the Aztecs get brutally destroyed. Okay. Brutally destroyed. And I'm hoping to finish this lesson by the end of today. So I am going to be talking a little quicker than usual. Okay. Conquest of the Aztecs and the Incas. Remember your assignment today at 8:36 is to just type 3 sentences at least of what you learned. Okay, so maybe pay attention. I don't know. So I just said right here, 25 years. Oh, let me move this over here. Let me move this down here. Okay. It's 25 years since Columbus lands in America. You get homeboy Hernan Cortez. Okay. He really, really wants to go, also make a ton of money for himself. He wants to make a name for himself. In the meantime, the Aztecs are just vibing, right? They're in Tenochtitlan. They're killing it. They are conquering. They keep, remember the Triple Alliance? I don't know if anyone remembers the Triple Alliance. Type yes in the chat if you do. I'll love you forever if you do. The Triple Alliance, right? You have these 3 kingdoms and they form an alliance to take over all of the other Aztec kingdoms, right? Right. So they're vibing. They're actually doing really good in Tenochtitlan. And you have an emperor. His name is Moctezuma. Moctezuma. That's such a powerful name. Like I hear that and it's just like, whoa, that's intimidating, right? So Moctezuma is the emperor. They keep getting more and more and more land. But do you guys remember also when I used you guys as an example? I said, what if Kylie had her own kingdom, Denise had her own kingdom, Sharon had her own kingdom, I had my own kingdom? If Tenochtitlan is taking over all these other kingdoms, and then remember Tenochtitlan forces them to say, hey, either I kill all of you or you send me tribute, right? You give me stuff so that I don't kill you guys. Yes or no, class, right now in the chat. Yes or no? Do they have enemies? Yes or no? Of course they have enemies, okay? And I want you to remember that because those enemies are going to play a big role in the takedown of the Aztecs, okay? So here's homeboy Hernan Cortez, okay? He's from Spain. Bro is only 19 years old. He's only a 19 years old kid. I mean, technically he's like an adult, right? When you're 18, you're an adult. But when you're my age, a 19-year-old still looks like a kid. I look at 19-year-olds and I look at you guys and I'm like, I don't see a difference. They're the same to me. So this kid was 19 years old and he sells to America with the permission of the king and queen. Okay. And he arrives to Mexico. Okay. And his goal is to conquer land in the name of the Spanish crown. Voy a ir a conquistar toda la tierra. Y va a ser de España, right? All this land is going to be a part of Spain. That's why I'm going to America, because I'm going to make bank for my country. Here's our homeboy, Hernan Cortez, all right? Now, I need to tell you guys something. The Aztecs, remember the priests that are cutting out the hearts of the people in the sacrifice to the sun? Well, the priests, the Aztec priests, have always had this prophecy. They've always had this dream that one day a god would land, a god in person, like me in person, I'm not a god, but you know, a god in person would land in Tenochtitlan. And they're like, how would we know this person's a god? How would we know this person's a god? Their skin will be lighter. Pay attention to that. They believed that one day in the future, who knows when, but the god would one day arrive at Tenochtitlan. And this god's name would be called Quetzalcoatl. Quetzalcoatl. I'm not going to make you guys remember that. And so they're always kind of waiting for this god to arrive, and he has light skin. And Hernan Cortez, does he have light skin, ladies and gentlemen? Yes or no? Oh, yeah. Everyone in Europe is white, right? Everyone in Europe is white at this point. So when Hernan Cortez arrives and bro has light skin, what do they think he is, ladies and gentlemen? 3-letter word. a god, right? But we'll get to that, okay? So it says the young Spanish explorer Hernan Cortes arrives with only 600 soldiers, which I know that's kind of like the size of our school, 600 people, okay? It's not a lot. It's not too much. And it's totally nothing compared to Moctezuma's huge army in Tenochtitlan. Bro has an army of thousands and thousands of people, okay? Here's the thing. He had one advantage. He found I'm not gonna get into it, but he found a native person that lived near Tenochtitlan that understood a little bit of Spanish and spoke the Aztec language, right? Because if you arrive to Europe and you're going to arrive in a whole new world, right? No one's gonna know that. How are you going to communicate? No one knows each other's language. Luckily for him, he did find a native person that lives around that area who understood a little bit of Spanish and definitely understood the Aztec language. How? It's a whole long story that I don't have time to get into. But if you want to look into it, go look into it. All right, anyways. This girl, her name is, I know her name. Milanche, right? Milanche, yeah. This girl's name is Milanche. She's the girl that's a Native American, right? She knows Aztec and she understands a little bit of Spanish. Malinche tells Hernan Cortes, or to all my English speakers, Hernan Cortes. That's how I call him by his Spanish, but you could also say English, Hernan Cortes. So Malinche, she's this native girl. She tells Hernan or Hernan Cortes, bro, when we get to Tenochtitlan, you're going to be outnumbered big time. You need a bigger army, okay? Hernan Cortes says, all right, okay, so how do I get a bigger army here? Who's going to want to fight with me? Who's going to want to fight with me against the Aztecs? Oh, little did he know that the Aztecs had so many enemies, right? Remember, the Triple Alliance was taking over all these other kingdoms and said, hey, I either kill you or you send me tribute. I either kill you or I still take a bunch of your people so I could go, sacrifice them up in the temple for their hearts to the sun. The Aztecs had so many enemies. And when they saw Hernan Cortes, some of them believe he's a god. And some of them say, hey, this guy wants to take down the Aztecs? Oh, I'm down. Sign me up. Sign me up. I'll go fight against the Aztecs, right? I'll go fight. And that is how Hernan Cortes starts with a little army of 600 people and easily gets over 1,000, more than hundreds of thousands. No, sorry, not hundreds, maybe like a dozen thousands, like 15,000 soldiers ready to fight against the Aztecs. Now, Tenochtitlan has a fair fight, okay? But Hernan Cortes isn't just going to go in there into Tenochtitlan and like destroy everyone in an instant. This bro is smart. He knows that people in Tenochtitlan are expecting a god who's light skinned like he is. He's like, oh, I can earn their trust. So he tells his people, his 600 white soldiers and his alliances, right? Have you guys, yes or no? Type yes or no in the chat. Have you guys ever heard the saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend? Yes or no? Right? It's pretty obvious, right? The enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? If me and Kylie did not like each other, but I know Denise also doesn't like Kylie, I'm going to be friends with Denise because we both don't like Kylie, right? It's a bad example, but that's the same thing, right? You have all these other people that hate the Aztecs. You have Hernan Cortes who wants to take over the Aztecs to make all of Mexico a part of Spain, right? So they're going to go together, quietly go, make their way to Tenochtitlan, okay? Now, here you see an image on the right where it's Hernan Cortes meeting Moctezuma, the emperor of the Aztecs. But here's the thing. Where are all his alliances that he made? They're all hiding. because they've been told by Hernán Cortés, wait for my signal. I'm first going to earn the trust of Moctezuma. Dang, that's cold, Hernán Cortés. But honestly, bro, that's kind of smart. He's going to earn the trust of Moctezuma. And when they least expect it, when they have their arms, their weapons down, when they have their weapons lowered, bam, that's when he's going to go in attack. Okay? And Moctezuma and people in Tenochtitlan, they greet him like, oh my gosh, it's Quetzalcoatl. Is this Quetzalcoatl? Is this the God we've been waiting for? He has light skin. Are the people that are behind him, which are the 600 original soldiers, right? They're also white. Are those his angels? I don't know. Are those his like divine warriors that back him up? Maybe we should greet them. And so there's a lot of images of them shaking hands. Honestly, I wasn't there. I don't know if they meet hands, but in my head, they shake hands. And Hernán Cortés has his native interpreter, right? Malinche. And they, have dinner. And Hernán Cortés is seeing, at the same time, he's like kind of freaked out too, because he's seeing like, oh, sugar, honey, and icy. There's like blood everywhere. And, they're like sacrificing a bunch of people up there in that temple. He's a little nervous, right? He's looking at this like, I'm glad. He's thinking this to himself. He's like, I'm really glad I made alliances with these people's enemies, because he's a little terrified, right? If you were to go into a land and you saw blood everywhere because of all the heart sacrifices, you'd be like, oh, okay. It's a little weird, right? But anyways, it says, at first Moctezuma and his empire welcomed Cortés because of a prophecy. Little did they know Cortés was plotting a huge betrayal against the Aztec emperor, okay? Once Cortés gained Moctezuma's trust, that's when he gives the signal, bam. His soldiers and the alliances he made with the other kingdoms that hated the Aztecs, they come up out of nowhere and they attack Tenochtitlan, okay? And it's not a cute scene. You had people dying left and right, falling. It was crazy. Moctezuma, the emperor, he gets captured and thrown into jail. Eventually, he gets killed as well. And just like that, this huge empire that we talked about 3 weeks ago, whenever it was that we talked about the Aztecs, obliterated within weeks, within days, guys. That's how quickly they took down an empire. Okay. And then when it's all over, when everyone's dead on the floor, when there's no longer an empire, what do? What do they do? Actually, before I talk about that, I want to show you guys this slide. It says, how did the Spanish easily destroy the natives? There's 3 things. Okay. And if for some reason in the future, someone goes up to you and say, hey, Ryan, how did the Spanish easily destroy the natives? Ryan and everyone else in this class is going to go, bro, 3 reasons. The first one, they had better weapons. Okay? Now, they had swords, pretty good swords with strong metals. They had cannons. You guys know what a cannon is, right? You put in the thing, right? Horses were not around during this time in America. Horses come from the old world. You have horses all over Bakersfield thanks to the old world, basically. So they had better weapons. They had muskets, which is basically a gun, but it's a lot less stronger than an actual gun. So you call it a musket. It just looks like a long rifle. That's what it kind of looks like, okay? They had muskets, long swords, cannons, horses, which let them like move a lot easier and quicker. That was the first win. The second one was obviously something we already talked about, right? The enemy of my enemy is my friend, the native allies, right? They're like, oh, you guys hit the Aztecs? Oh, guess what, bro? We're going to go take them down. You want to join? And then they'd be like, of course, right? The allies came in clutch, easily wiped out Tenochtitlan. But the biggest reason, does anyone know what the biggest reason is? I haven't even mentioned it yet. Any guesses in the chat? Or you can unmute yourself too. No one has a guess. They thought they were sacrifices. No. That's actually a really good guess. But it wasn't that one. That's a good guess. Because of the prophecy, no. Poor people. They thought their prophecy was like their God going to join them, and then they realized, oh shoot, this guy isn't a God, you know. He's killing us all. Ladies and gentlemen, the biggest reason why they easily destroy the natives is because of sickness. Ladies and gentlemen, the people in the New World, the Inca, the Aztecs, the Maya, the North American natives, ladies and gentlemen, they never got sick. The world was so clean. The air was so clean. They did everything so naturally. They never got sick. They didn't have flu. They didn't have chicken pox. They never had experienced the Black Death, ladies and gentlemen. So these people had no immunity in their bodies. In their bodies, they had no immunity. Their body had never had to fight any type of sickness, because in the New World, before the people from Europe came, everything was clean. They did everything naturally. But when all these Europeans came, in their DNA, they carried so much disease that existed in Europe. Smallpox, influenza, chicken pox. Even though they didn't have it inside them, they still had the DNA that had a part of the bubonic plague. So when they came, the common cold, the Spanish flu, all of the flus and sicknesses you can think of, except COVID. COVID-19 was a recent virus, right? But all the viruses that you can think of, it was in the European DNAs. So when they come in and they're breathing heavily and they're coughing or whatever it is and they're sneezing, and by the way, a lot of people would get really sick in ships too, because you're in such close proximity and you're kind of living in your own trash. And remember, it's not an easy, short little sail from Europe to Mexico. It takes 2 months and 10 days around that time to get there. So people are already sick. When they land, excuse me, now I'm getting sick. When they land and all these Native Americans are close to them and talking to them, with peace and love, they're screwed. Okay? Because they have no immunity whatsoever. So the moment they catch any virus, instantaneously, they fall sick, and within 3, 4, 5 days, they were dead. Right? They were dead. So I don't know if this is something that you're going to hear if you guys ever study history, and if you guys ever go to university or college and you guys take a history class. This is probably they take a whole day just talking about how sickness really was the biggest weapon that the Europeans had. It was sickness. It wasn't even the muskets. It wasn't the cannons. It wasn't the swords. It wasn't the horses. It wasn't really even forming allies. The biggest one was bringing sickness to America. This wiped out a lot of Native Americans. Before Hernán Cortez, before he had all these explorers from Europe arrive to America, you had around 25 million Native Americans living in Mexico. 25 million Native Americans living in Mexico. But once you start seeing, you instantly see the drop, right? Once you start seeing all these Europeans arrive, by the time it's like the 1600s, there's like probably 1 or 2 million left. So you go from 25 million to 2 million Native Americans left. Poor people, man. It sucks. It really sucks. The good thing is, if you go to Mexico, do you still see people from Maya descent or Aztec descent? Yes, you do. Very small amount of people. Very small amount of people. But they're still alive. They're still there. Okay? But it's nothing compared to how it used to be before the Europeans arrived. And what happens? What happens when Spain finally conquers and takes over this land and sends a message back to the king and queen? Hey, mi rey, mi reina, guess what? We took over. Mexico officially becomes a colony, right? A colony, right? This land belongs to Spain. Anything in this land, anything found, any of the people here, now they belong to Spain. Then you see all of the Catholic priests ship into Mexico, and they force thousands, if not millions, of natives to let go of their old religion and become Christian. And they start renaming a lot of people to a lot of our names, right? Alondra, that's a Spanish name. Let me see. I'm going to show you some. See. Alexis, I think that's a Spanish name. Francisco for sure is a Spanish name. Gabriel is a Spanish name. Genesis, I think that could be a Spanish name for sure. Jose, Spanish name. Mateo, Spanish name. Mauricio, Spanish name. Ruby, I think that's an English name. I'm not sure. Siriana, for sure, Spanish name, right? And someone said it really well in the chat right now. Spreading Christianity was their moral duty, right? Especially because, don't forget, remember in Europe, we had the Protestant Reformation. A lot of people are not being Catholic anymore, and they're becoming either Protestant, right? Now they're becoming Christian Protestant, whether it's Lutheran, Pentecostal, Anglican, whatever. And so the Spanish people know that. They're like, oh my gosh, we're losing Catholics around the world. Let's just force all of these Native Americans to become Catholic, right? And they make a lot of the Native Americans also be slaves. And guess what, guys? This is only the beginning, because we're going to see in the next week, we're going to see how this happens again and again and again. And what do they take? What's the one thing they take? They fill their ships and they send it back to Europe because it's everywhere. Type it in the chat, 4-letter word. What's the thing they take to Spain and completely empty it across America? Gold, right? Gold. They also take a bunch of other stuff. Someone mentioned in the chat food. They did introduce cacao, which is chocolate, right? They do take cacao, which is where chocolate comes from, to Europe. They take a lot of chili peppers. They take a lot of, you guys are going to find this weird, but they take a lot of dead bugs to Spain. Why? It's because some of these dead bugs, if they dry, they become a color, and that could be used for paint, right? They take a lot of spices found here only in America back to Europe. But the biggest thing they take for sure is gold. And they empty Mexico of it. Empty it. And the ships, that's what I'm telling you guys. I know for a fact there is tons and tons of gold in the middle of the ocean because a lot of ships don't make it, right? They filled the ship with so much gold that some of them would sink, right? Or some of them weren't able to survive the huge waves in the ocean. So I know in the middle of the sea, there's a lot of gold, especially in the Atlantic Ocean. You know it, okay? And ladies and gentlemen, just like that, in one Zoom session, that's it. That's the end of the Aztec Empire. Someone said in the chat, so that's why sometimes people go into the sea to find old ships. Exactly. That's a whole thing. There's some people that devote their lives to that. And yeah, it's honestly it's a little sad. It's a little sad for the Aztecs, and I guess if you're Spanish, you know, you're probably thinking, you know, like we did it, right? And we'll see a lot more about that too. I have 1 minute left. I guess I'll use this 1 minute to also tell you guys that when we were learning about the Inca down here, remember when we talked about the Inca? Well, guess what? Someone from Spain also named Francisco Pizarro. He comes over here and he also destroys and takes over and conquers the whole Inca Empire. At the same time that the Aztecs are getting destroyed, the Incas are also getting destroyed. But I'm not going to talk too much about them. Okay? So it's 8:36, my beautiful people. That's it. That's the lesson.